The NBA draft now behind us. Free agency looms. Of course, the Lakers won the championship just 5 weeks ago. Who cares? New season starts in about a month's time. Danielle, Michaud, Donnovan, Bennett, myself, Faizal Khamisa here to talk all things Raptors right now. The big question, guys, of course, surrounds the signing of one of their own, or the hopeful signing, at least what fans consider, when it comes to Fred VanVleet. Now, the Raptors drafted two guards, notably a point guard in the first round as well, Malachi Flynn. Is there any indication, Donnovan Bennett, that this could lead to some trouble, or there is some trouble when it comes to re-upping Fred VanVleet in your eyes?
I don't think so. I mean, I think at the end of the day, Bobby Webster and Masai Ujiri are just good negotiators, and they got themselves a little bit of leverage heading into that negotiation. Yeah, we got a 6'1" point guard that's 22 that kind of does a lot of things that you do. So, I mean, they needed to address the guard position, even if they did bring back Fred, because Kyle Lowry is not going to play forever. But no, I mean, I think you look at the musical chairs, he's running out of other places to go. And so even if, as he says, he wants to cash out, the rent might be too damn high for the Bulls or the Pistons or the Suns, who have all used up some of their cap space. In the case of the Bulls and the Pistons, they went and they got young guards in and around the draft process. So I don't think Raptors fans should stress too much just because of the first round pick.
I don't think they need to be either, DJ. I'm right there with you, because Bobby Webster said again and time over and over, Fred VanVleet is our number one most important priority. And it was funny how much flack Fred got for saying that he wants to get paid. I still don't understand that. I'm sure neither of you do either, because what do you get from being humble at this point? He's done the work. He should earn the dough. And I think the Raptors are well aware that he was going to cash in on a big payday. So I think he's always been a part of the plan. And if anything, their two-guard approach, he'll be able to be folded into the mix and learn under two veterans who are so much like him. It's amazing that they're always able to draft guys that fit with the they weave into the fabric of this team and the identity of this team every time. And it sounds like Malachi is exactly the kind of person that they've drafted in times before.
I found it really fitting, guys, and maybe it was a slip from Bobby Webster, but when he talked about Malachi Flynn, he mentioned the fact that he gets to learn from Kyle and Fred. He didn't say Kyle. He didn't say Kyle and hopefully Fred. He said Kyle and Fred. But as much as we can be optimistic and hopeful that Fred will resign, it's still a bit of a business. The numbers being thrown around with regards to what Fred is looking for seem a little concerning, especially if you're of the belief that the Raptors will be big players in the 2021 free agency draft. DJ, how much money is too much money, or is there too much money that you can pay Fred VanVleet?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be north of the mid-level exception, which is all that a lot of teams have to give at this point. I agree. I think it was super interesting that Bobby said both of their names. But to your point, Danielle, like his slogan is "Bet on yourself," and in the logo, the O is a money bag. Like, of course, he wants the money. Like, he's let us know this. But FaZe, I think you can be aggressive with Fred. Look at the way the game is going with people, playing small two-guard lineups. Look how many young guards, not just, Malachi, but others, Peyton Pritchard, who their comps was a Fred VanVleet, a guy who wasn't drafted himself. Yeah. So I think you can go hard at Fred. What that means, though, is over the next 2 years, where the free agent classes are a bit deeper, you may have to say goodbye to some other Raptors that you like to create some space potentially for a free agent that may or may not be from Greece. But I think that's maybe not so good for someone like a Norman Powell per se. But no, I think you go hard to secure Fred because you need him.
Well, and that's the thing, is what are they going to do if they don't have Fred, or what can they do if Fred leaves? They only have 3 contracts locked up, and do they need to make a move, or do they stand pat? And it's hard to say when you look at the rest of, especially their conference, that have been making moves. This is the same team. If they bring Fred back, do they need to try and do something different to shake it up? They don't tell anyone what their plans are. We still don't even know where they're playing. So at this point, whether or not they're going to try to make a splashy move and change up the dynamic and the makeup of this team is hard to say. I just don't think that they will.
All right. Let's take a look at the Eastern Conference right now in the context of where the Raptors kind of fit in ahead of free agency and the bulk of moves being made, because we see teams like Milwaukee on paper, get better. You can't argue that Drew Holiday does make them short-term better despite them trading all their picks for the next 50,000 years in an effort to get him. Bogdanovic will deal with that when we have another day because that whole thing is a fiasco in itself. Philly's made some moves that seemingly make them better. We know Boston's good. We know Miami's good. We know Brooklyn's getting KD and Kyrie and maybe more if it was up to them back. They got a new coach as well, Steve Nash. Where do you think the Raptors kind of fit right now, Deej, in context of the Eastern Conference? Because it feels like there are a lot more powers in play than there were over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at, the end of the regular season or the end of the playoffs and the Raptors feeling good about themselves despite, the loss to Boston. Let's not forget Coach of the Year, highest winning percentage in franchise history, an ascending organization. But you look at how everyone else has gotten much better. Certainly, you might want to say, okay, well, what's going on here? I will say this though, they're probably not going to bring back both of their centers. There's going to be some cost savings there that will make them a player in free agency or be able to bring back some salary via trade. But the other thing is, let's be honest, of NBA ownership groups, how many are going to be willing to spend not knowing how much revenue they're going to be able to bring in with the fact that there won't be full gates? So I think they've fallen back towards the middle of the pack in which is a much more aggressive East. But I do think that they're being patient, they're being prudent because, as we've mentioned, there's always a disgruntled star that wants to leave. They were the benefit of that with Kawhi Leonard. And this is like a for sale offseason in terms of free agency. The real stars are the future. So for sustained success, it actually makes sense for them not to spend bad money, which some other teams, in my opinion, are doing.
Can I just ask both of you, because I feel like we're having all these conversations about decisions the Raptors are going to make, and yet the Raptors haven't even announced whether or not Bobby and Masai are locked up at the top of the heap, right? I feel like this is an important, we talk about Fred being priority number one. I would say Masai is right up there with him. And are either of you surprised that that hasn't been announced yet at this point when they're making the decisions for the future of this team?
Is it weird to say I'm both surprised and not surprised at the same time? Because this is kind of, again, how the Raptors operate. Like, they'll just take care of business as usual and then nonchalantly drop a press release saying, yeah, both these guys are coming up, or they won't, right? Or they won't. And everyone is going to have to be okay with that and move on from that because they've brought you this championship in the past as we delve very, very far away from the question that was originally presented here. But it's just kind of, as DJ mentioned, like they're just kind of lurking, right? And the Raptors are always kind of there, be it through their own signings or player signings or executive signings. They're just kind of there doing their business until they absolutely can't anymore, right? And so I'm not surprised, although the anxiety in me as a Raptors fan, if I was to be one like the ones on Twitter, would make me really surprised that is not there just yet, Deej.
Well, the anxiety should land with Larry Tannenbaum, with LT, and with the Board of Governors, because Raptors fans can stress over what's going to happen with Fred, and the Lakers might be interested in Serge, and Mafuzi Chef could do his series on the West Coast, and what's going to happen in terms of the next couple off seasons with big free agents. But none of that matters if Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster are not in place in Toronto. All of that's for naught, because the shine that's on this organization leaves if they walk through that door. I'm not really sure how this wasn't done when Masai was riding on Bay Street in the convertible. Like, that's really when this should have been done, to be quite honest. Like, what other data points do we need to see at this point? Look at the franchise before he was GM and then president, and look at it since. Like, they've gotten better every single year. And so if I'm Masai, I just walk in there and say, listen, there are 1,000 yous. There's only one of me. And unless you want to see me in another NBA organization or running a premiership team or running in politics, I'm going to need X, Y, and Z. So give my guy the ownership stake or whatever it's going to take. Because, Danielle, you're right. That's the biggest question. All of these things are immaterial if those things don't get done.
It's funny, Deej, because I think you and I both interviewed Masai on Bay Street that day, and neither of us asked him.
So did I.
Yeah, we all did. Yeah, we all did. In some capacity,
I caught him in the first 9 hours. I think you guys caught him closer to the 10th, 11th.
and Bobby Webster, and none of us did proper journalism to ask him the right question. That's our fault. We'll move on. We'll wait to see what the Raptors have in store. Again, expect it to be quiet, but when the moves get made, it'll have a pretty large impact. Danielle, Donnovan, Faizal saying, sleep well. It's okay.